This is Rex Bear with Leak Project. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this edition. Now, I have a podcast here that I'm going to bring to you guys that has some exclusive audio footage with the infamous Ronald Shimschuck. Is he real? Is he not real? Is that his real name? Is that an alias? Whatever happened to him last time he spoke with Steve, they got abruptly disconnected, and then nobody's heard from him since. Well, the cool thing is I had an opportunity to interview the founder of Someone's Bones. His name is Michael Baxter, and he sent me exclusive audio of Ronald Shimschuck. So we're going to play that at the beginning of the presentation, and then after that I interview Michael and we talk about several of the articles that he's put together on his website, someonesbones.com. So hope everybody's doing good, having a wonderful day. Make sure to subscribe to youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord. You'll get access to the latest podcast absolutely free. And if you become a contributing member on leakproject.com, you'll have access to exclusive content only available for contributing members. Another thing I'd like to let you guys know about is I just got done with a presentation in regards to how to debunk many of these Planet X, aka Nibiru photos that are out there with Jeff from the Nemesis Project. And I've already gotten several comments saying, why don't you put some good images up there and debunk the real good images? Or I'll believe something from 6,000 years ago, not from this guy. That's cool. I get it. I'm agnostic on the subject, and all that podcast was doing was showing you guys some ways to discover if something's actually a lens anomaly, artifact from the camera, or maybe just too much light in the equipment being used. Most of the stuff we see, in my opinion, you guys, is some type of lens flare. Now, that doesn't mean I don't believe in Planet X. That doesn't mean I do believe in Planet X. And we also have somebody by the name of Eric. He's a regular listener at the Leak Project. He's a professional photographer. He's going to come on the show and actually break down in really good detail how you can decipher if something is real, if it's a lens flare, if it's an anomaly, if it's from the atmosphere and the conditions of maybe ice crystals, if it's concentrated swamp gas, who knows? But he's going to be able to show us from a professional perspective. And Eric actually thinks he did get a picture of Planet X once. He sent me that image, and we're going to show that during this presentation. But I don't want you guys to think that I'm just getting somebody on the show to show a few different pictures and say that all of the ones on the internet are debunked, because that's not it. Now, we'll get some real good ones on with Eric, and he can debunk those for us or not. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that could be Photoshopped, and because Photoshop is such a powerful tool to do special effects with imagery, right? It would be tough for me or for many people to be able to see if that's actually legit or not. But there are certain programs and corporations and companies that specialize in finding out if a image or photograph or video footage is legit. So I just want to throw that out there for you guys. We're wanting to get to the truth. We're not wanting to continue to look at lens flares all the time. Yeah, lens. You know what else is funny? I thought I'd bring this up. Some of the podcasts on Leak Project that have gotten more views than any other show is on Planet X. And the ones that have the most views on Planet X, in my opinion, the pictures are not as good as other videos that I've done where I've shown pictures of what I think could definitely be Planet X. The ones that have a lot of lens flares get a lot more views. So I don't know why. Certainly, in my opinion, I would think that if you come out with a video that shows some very compelling photos of what possibly could be a second sun or Planet X or Nibiru, that video would get a lot more steam than videos that show images of incredible lens flares. But hey, you know, who am I to judge? I don't know. Maybe people like the comedy factor. Maybe there's something more involved. I mean, could there be certain algorithms that push videos with certain agendas more for particular reasons? These are questions that I ask all the time. So maybe you guys might want to as well. Enjoy the show, you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
They're calling themselves Jack and Joe and Jim. Like you go to a press conference and there is Jack talking about Jim and Julie, which is kind of confusing. Besides, I think it's pretty bad manners to call someone you don't know Jack or Jim. Now, I never met you. I never saw you. How can I think of you as Mike? And how can you think of me as Don or Ron or whatever? So you call me what I am. I'm this guy, Dr. Shimschuck. Okay? Thanks. Go ahead.
Um, okay, first of all, absolutely no disrespect intended. Dr. Shimschuck, I certainly do apologize. Sometimes we're a little
I
bit.
know. It's just a bad American habit. Everybody's Jack and Joe, and I haven't got used to it yet. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's the best way of doing it, but I don't know. I think it's confusing. Anyway, Mr. X, you are Mr. X, and I am Dr. Shimshuck. Okay, you're Mr. Mike X, I think. Maybe you are not Mike X. Maybe you are Mr. XX. All right. Anyway,
Yeah. Again, my apologies, Dr. Shimshuck.
no apologies. No apologies. I really appreciate the live Americans. Americans are very nice people. I like their easy habits. I like American jeans. I like American shorts. You know, and I like informality, American informality. But this Jack and Joe and Jim is confusing. So you call me Dr. Shimshuck. Okay.
No problem, Dr. Shimshuck. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
I'm not clarifying nothing. I'm just telling you how I feel. I feel that officially calling somebody Jack or Joe is stupid. But sorry, I'm not. It's not stupid. It's the American way, and it gets under my skin. I don't know. All right, go ahead.
Dr. Shimshuck, thank you again for talking with me. I do understand that your time is short, and I know that you are reluctant to do this. So I don't want to waste your time. I do appreciate the little bit of time that we've had to speak on the subject. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get to the bottom of it here and try and ask you a few questions. And if you would answer them for me, I would appreciate it. If there's something that you cannot answer, I certainly understand it. Could you tell me when you first learned about Nibiru, or commonly known as Planet X?
I find it hard to even talk about this. But all right, I was in NASA and I learned about the work on this. They had imaged it with IRAS, and it had been photographed with SPT. And it's a South Pole telescope. I became concerned, very concerned, because they kept all this information so secret. Only very few people knew about it. So I thought I should learn as much as I could. I overheard a few conversations. And then, as I told you when we first spoke, the director took interest in me.
Right, and that's interesting that you mentioned the South Pole Telescope and the IRAS, which is the NASA's infrared astronomical satellite, because you're not alone in mentioning that. Other people that have come forward, whistleblowers per se, have also specifically stated that those devices were specifically created to monitor Nibiru, aka Planet X. If I can ask you, based on what you know, and you did see the pictures that were leaked by Nibiru back in 2009 and 2010, that were allegedly taken from that very same South Pole telescope located in Antarctica. Do you believe that those photographs are authentic?
Well, let me correct you on something. I don't know that those two telescopes were specifically created for Nibiru, but I believe them to be authentic, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that. Others have said that they were created specifically to monitor Nibiru. I don't know if that is true or not. Now, you've already told me about your concern for other whistleblowers. Are you concerned for your own safety right now at this time? Are you worried about coming forward with any information?
Well, of course, everybody's worried, maybe, but now it's just me. My wife is gone, and I just don't want to be part of this conspiracy. It's been over my life too long. And some other people are talking, they are speaking, and I want to do what I can do, my best to help.
Well, that certainly is appreciated, Dr. Shimschuck. Um, and a lot of people, are eager to hear information from whistleblowers, to hear what they have to say about that very long conspiracy that the government has been perpetuating for decades now. Let me ask you this, if I may. There's so much talk about Nibiru. I've heard it referred to as a comet, an asteroid, a planet, a sun with planets. Based on what you know, are you able to tell us or me what exactly is Nibiru?
Uh, when they say Nibiru or Planet X, they indicate a solar system consisting of a brown dwarf star, largely visible only with infrared technology. And this star has 7 planets orbiting with it. Some are smaller than our moon, and one is larger than Earth. I have seen conflicting reports estimating the Nibiru system diameter is between 40 and 65 million miles, something in that range.
Okay, thank you, Ron. I mean, Dr. Shimschuck, I'm sorry. That information, again, has also been substantiated by other whistleblowers in terms of Planet X or Nibiru actually being a miniature solar system, so to speak, and not just a solitary uh, rogue object in space hurtling towards the Earth. And I think even Zachariah Stitchin, who brought Nibiru to the forefront, did talk about Nibiru being actually a solar system. So thank you for clarifying and making that information known. Now here's the question, and of course, a lot of people wonder about how close Nibiru is going to come to Earth. I've seen arguments saying that it's going to strike the Earth, it's going to strike the Moon, it's not going to actually come anywhere close to the Earth. Do you have any idea, based on the information you obtained while at NASA, what their projections are or were regarding how close Nibiru will come to our planet here?
Yes?
Dr. Shimschuck, this is Mike. I apologize. I accidentally disconnected you.
Not smart.
I know. I do apologize for that. Is it okay if we continue where I left off prior to the disconnection?
Yes, my friend.
Okay, thank you. Just before I got disconnected, I was asking if you have any information based on your time at NASA, what their projections were as to how close Nibiru or the Nibiru system will come to Earth.
Well, there was much debate at NASA. Most agreed that Nibiru, or the the outermost planet, will pass within 0.3 astronomical units of Earth, sometimes late in 17.
Wow, that soon. And it's interesting because there have been so many claims about when Nibiru will arrive. People have said 2000, 2003, 2012, but you are at least the third person with credentials not that I've spoken to personally, but that I've read about who has given a time frame someplace in the fourth quarter of 2017. So that is very interesting. Thank you. And do you have any idea? Is this going to be an extinction level event? Will this be the end of life as we know it on civilization?
It will be bad. Very, very bad. Really.
I take your word on that, and hopefully everybody is doing what they can to prepare as best they can for the arrival of Planet X, Dr. Shimschuck. I think that's all I have right now. I do hope that I get the opportunity to speak with you again sometime in the future. The information that you're providing us with is invaluable, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will be interested in hearing what you have to say. So, Ron, Dr. Shimschuck, once again, thank you, and I hope we can have another conversation sometime real soon.
All right, my friend. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Michael Baxter with us. Now, Michael Baxter is from someone'sbones.com. someone'sbones.com. Now, this is an excellent website. As you can see here, I'm scrolling down. There's some great articles on Nibiru, and we're going to discuss many of these today. For example, how about this, folks? There's actually insurance now that you can get in case of a Nibiru catastrophe. How crazy is that? So, Michael, it's great to have you on the show here with us at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
Rex, I'm doing fantastic, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I know we tried to get it together for a while here, so I'm glad we finally had the opportunity to connect and that I have can spend a little bit of time here talking about it.
Yeah, this is great. I know that we were going to speak about a month or so ago, and there were some circumstances that came up, so I had to shoot out of town for a little while, and I'm just really glad that we can speak. I've had several requests to get you on the show, and you also said you were going to share some information with us that was pretty strong, I think. It was in regards to Dr. Ronald Shimschuck. Now, I know that Steve Olson had spoken with him, and they got disconnected, and then nobody's heard from him since that I know of, so I certainly can't wait to get into that. But before we do, just if you would please give our audience a brief introduction about yourself and why you decided to set up a website and put just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into informing people about Planet X, aka Nibiru.
All right, Steve. Rex, I'll do it. You mentioned Steve's name was on my mind. I'll go ahead and do the best I can about that. As for myself, my field of expertise is journalism, and I went to school for journalism at Hofstra University in Long Island. I live up in New York State, up in the mountains. And as to why Someone's Bones came into existence, well, Planet X Nibiru has been something I've been interested in. It's going back to about 2002, 2003, and it's something I've been back and forth on the fence, believing, not believing, being somewhere in the middle on the subject. Now, regarding this particular website, the someone'sbones.com.
Hey, Michael, can I jump in real quick?
When I created this website, it was never intended initially. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're getting a really bad connection. And it shouldn't be my end here. Are you on Wi-Fi? Are you a long way away from the hotspot, or is there? I'm trying to think of a way we get a little bit of a better connection here.
I'm on a wired connection right now, but we are having thunderstorms coming through the area right now.
Okay.
So I don't know if that might be affecting the connection.
That could be, and if there's nothing we can do about it, that's okay. I was just thinking if there was a quick fix, maybe we could make it a little bit more palatable as far as the audio goes. But the beauty is this being pre-recorded is I can clean it up a little bit, and that's fine. we'll just keep going. So that's okay. And so you're a reporter, and then I abruptly interrupted you. I apologize. Please continue.
The last thing I think I was saying is when I first started someone'sbones.com, it was not intended to be a Planet X / Nibiru centered website. I originally created it for geopolitical reasons because there's a lot of mess going on in the world outside of Nibiru that needs to be talked about. However, as the articles progressed on the website, I noticed that the Nibiru Planet X articles did gather a lot more attention than articles of other subjects, political. So at that point in time, I decided to start concentrating more on the Nibiru and Planet X for someone's bones and use another website for other interests. So that's pretty much how someone's bones has come into existence. And when I started it, I didn't know how deep it would go. I've come by information. I try and write information that I think is going to be of interest to readers, and I do the best I can on that.
Well, I'll tell you, one thing that I've noticed about Nibiru as well is it has been on people's minds. I talk to guests from all over the world with a wide variety of subjects. We'll get into politics, current events, breaking news, alternative history, science, UFOs, abductions, clandestine operations, and the one that gets trolled more than any of them, and I've talked about this many times before, is Planet X. And I've also noticed that the Nibiru phenomenon has definitely been on people's minds because of the amount of views that these videos are getting. So I find it incredible, and that's why I've started to do more shows on this phenomenon, and I've seen some pretty cool pictures and video footage that has made me question more than before, because I used to be completely 100% thinking it was just a disinformation campaign, yet now I am more open to the possibility. I'm still agnostic, and when I say agnostic, that just means I don't know, but I do see things happening with Planet X and the trolls out there on Nibiru, and I'm not just talking your basement trolls, the ones that get paid to do it. There's a difference you can usually tell between the two, and there's definitely a lot of stuff going on around the world. You've got earth changes, volcanoes, the weather's going crazy, the chemtrails that are being blasted in the skies, and then you hear stories about whistleblowers coming out that were in basically high levels with astronomy, and they talked about Planet X, and they disappear, they get cancer, die 90 days later, etc. So, it's a pretty dangerous subject, it seems, but now they've got insurance that's doing it. So are you convinced that Planet X is legit?
Thanks for the question, Rex. I believe that there is something out there, and I do believe that it probably does pose some threat to humanity. Do I personally know if it's a single object or if it is a solar system? No, I do not know. I try to provide information that's given to me and write articles based on that. But I believe that something is out there. I believe that there is a huge, massive disinformation campaign taking place right now to quell any information out there on Nibiru and Planet X. And you can evidence this anywhere. On most popular forums, there are tons of people that jump out on any thread about Planet X and try and stifle, control, or redirect the conversation.
Absolutely. Now, what is this image that we're looking at right here that's on your website, someone'sbones.com?
This is a Google Sky image that was taken several years ago. This is actually not my image. This is an image that I pulled off of Google from a Google Sky image that, at least according to the image, that blacked out square on the image allegedly contains where Nibiru was at that period of time. And of course, the conspiracy about that is that Google Sky was intentionally blacking out areas of the application where Nibiru is said to have been located.
I think I actually saw this image before, and it reminded me, you've got this half smiley face, so I call it the evil Joker, the cosmic Joker, because you can see that half eyeball there and that evil grin, and it kind of reminds me of what's talked about, the red tail from Nibiru that's been discussed in the Sumerian tablets, according to some translations like the Zechariah Sitchin translation. So that's a pretty cool image right there. And then, if we go back to your website here, I read that article on insurance providers offering Nibiru. How did you find out about that? Tell us about this article. That's incredible.
I have a friend that lives on the West Coast, and he attends regularly survival seminars, prepper seminars, and things of that like. And he gets back to me with information that he finds there. And he told me that he encountered a gentleman there who was, and he's going to mail me some information on it. I haven't received it yet, but he encountered a gentleman there who was peddling Nibiru coverage.
Okay, so it's basically a seminar offering some coverage. It wasn't like it was State Farm that had a program set up where... Okay, that's interesting though. Yeah.
No, this was a completely independent company. I think the name of it, if I remember correctly, is Cosmic Survival. They call themselves, and they cater specifically to disasters caused by astronomical phenomena.
Yeah, that's interesting. Not a bad niche there. This is a really cool picture that we're looking at as well. And this one that's got almost looks like a 3-sun trifecta here, but I can't tell, what is lens flare, what isn't. Talk to us about this image. Where did you get this one?
Rex, this image was mailed in to me by a gentleman who claimed to have been from Brazil. I can tell you what we do is when we get an image that is questionable, we have a lab that we use called Primal Forensics, and they are an authority in digital image authority. And we send to them, and we ask them to check it to see if there has been any kind of image manipulation with the picture, and based on that to determine if at least the image is authentic and has not been manipulated, photoshopped. So in the case of this image, we did send it to them. They did get back to us with the report, stating at least that top image that you just scrolled past, that it had not undergone any manipulation. Now I cannot say that is absolutely Nibiru myself. This is what the person who sent the image to us claims, and I can tell you that I find this image very compelling. And go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, unless it was photoshopped here, because you can see the reflection off the water on each orb in the sky there. You can clearly see where the lens flare is. That's with the red ball around it, essentially, that little red aura. That's what you always get with lens flares. But then when you see these tails, essentially, that go on the water, that's quite compelling, unless that was photoshopped. And I don't know if it was or not, but I don't know if you can even tell anymore with Photoshop. But like you said, you went the extra mile and you took this in for some verification, and they came back and said it was legit. So that's pretty amazing. Now, if just for our listeners again, could you give them that name that you just told me?
The company's name is Primo Forensics, and you can visit primoforensics.com, I believe. Okay,
good deal. And so they're basically an organization that will take images and they can find out how they've got software, just proprietary stuff, or do you know much about them?
I know that before we started sending information to them, that their website indicated that they were a leader in digital image authority, as well as image files, sound files, and things along those lines.
Okay, yeah, that's very cool. Now, and it looks like here that this is pretty new, huh? Just on the 5th, is that when you got this image? July 5th of this month?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
One thing I really like about your website is when you click on some of these images, they will go up into a larger image to give somebody a better view of it. And what are we looking at right here?
This is an very old photograph. I believe it dates back to probably 2009. This is the photograph that was provided by the infamous Shimschuck, where he claimed to have obtained the first authenticated Nibiru images from the South Pole Telescope.
Okay, this one's from the South Pole Telescope. Yeah, that one's neat. Now, would that one still be up, or did they take that one down? Do you know?
As far as I know, that is down.
Okay. And then this one right here that we're looking at, this is a great image. It's pulling up kind of slow here, but talk to us about this one.
Yeah, on this particular image, unfortunately, I don't have anything interesting to say. This was just an image that was sent to us. Nobody asked us to verify it. It just looked like a good image, so we just put an image on to the side of the text just to make things look, just to break the text space on the webpage.
Oh yeah.
I can't tell you that this is authentic or this image is authentic or that we had this one tested.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. You know, another thing.
I can tell you that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can tell you that I find it looks compelling.
It certainly is. Yeah, absolutely. And there's another one, too, that I wanted to talk about because there's a lot of speculation that Russia is really getting fed up with NATO and about ready to push the button, essentially. I've heard everything from it could happen before the elections to after. I've heard the possibility of martial law being dropped down here pretty soon and a lot of UN movement in the Midwest. I even had somebody that sent me an email recently that said their YouTube channel was taken down because of an image that they released, and now they can't get back into it. They've tried to send me these images. They can't. The email keeps getting sent back. They saw a whole bunch of UN trucks, or a bunch of UN trucks, I should say, that said gun confiscation on the sides of them. So now I can't verify any of this, just what I got from the email. And he seems pretty freaked out. So I don't know if there's some connections there with maybe Planet X is getting really close and they know about this for some time. So they're putting everything in place essentially. I don't know.
I think they've known for a very long time that Planet X is out there and getting closer. And I myself, I absolutely believe that world governments are colluding to the best of their ability to conceal this information at all costs. There's no doubt that astronomers have perished suspiciously, untimely, and others have been discredited. And I mean, there's just some evidence to suggest that there's something going on that the government does not want us to know regarding Planet X.
Absolutely. Now, what's this article we're looking at right here about, a nuclear possibility because of this Planet X situation?
Well, the issue is that contrary to popular belief, the United States is not always the good guy promoting world peace, and Russia has not always been the bad guy seeking to expand its borders everywhere. Russia has long sought to bring Nibiru to a public forum. And at least according to the information that we've received, a lot of it, which I do believe is credible, is that back in 1983, 1984, then President Ronald Reagan did sign an unpublished executive order which forbid any scientific mind, government official, and anybody with credible information about Nibiru from opening their mouth. And at the time, Mikhail Gorbachev, on the other hand, was very interested in getting this information out to the public with the goal of potentially saving lives. And as the story goes, Reagan blew up about this and more or less threatened Russia with nuclear war if they went ahead and disclosed Planet X existence and Planet X timeline. And that has carried over from president to president for both countries.
Now, I mean, I've seen little clips and stuff on Russia Today and other media outlets that have hinted towards Planet X. I've seen some Chinese reports and stuff, but I don't speak Chinese, I don't speak Russian, so I can't verify what is being said completely. And what I'm wondering is, how much are these other nations told about Planet X, or is this all just an American conspiracy?
This is definitely not just an American conspiracy. At the very least, the big players are involved in this, and the big players being America, Russia, and China. And I'm sure other countries like Japan, Israel, and a host of other nations are involved in it also. But it's definitely not just American, and all across the world, other cultures are interested in the Planet X phenomena as well. It's not just something that Americans have taken and grabbed the reins of and are going crazy with it. It is taking place elsewhere too.
Well, and have you been able to put much information together about other countries' news articles and reporting?
The information that primarily I receive on Planet X is what comes out of our country here in the United States, and some information that comes out of Russia from a source that I do have in Russia.
Okay, good deal. Now, also, there's just so much speculation right now about what's going on with Dr. Ronald Shimschuck. Could you tell our audience what you know?
Now, this was probably the biggest controversy of the website was Dr. Ronald Shimschuck. I have a friend who works in the aerospace industry who knows about my fascination with Planet X. And he told me that there's somebody that I should talk to. And this somebody turned out to be Dr. Ronald Shimschuck, who I had several conversations with and wrote several pieces about on the website. And the stories were probably the most popular stories on the website because, again, whistleblowers gain attention. However, as often happens, when a person cannot verify an individual's credentials, they immediately call for fraud, hoax, whatever. And in regard to Steve, first of all, I love Steve. He's a great guy. He does fantastic things for the cause regarding Planet X. He reached out to me and wanted me to facilitate an arrangement with an interview between him and Dr. Shimschuck, which I attempted to do. Shimschuck was a little bit nervous because Steve wanted to use a software that he wasn't too familiar with. It wasn't Skype, it was another one, and I think he was a little bit nervous about that. And all I know is that, I'm here in New York. I guess Steve is in Texas, and Dr. Shimschuck's in Europe. And we got a few minutes into the conversation after having difficulties establishing the connections, all our connections to begin with. And something happened, the connection went dead on Dr. Shimschuck's, and this was back on May 18th or May 23rd. And personally, I have had no contact with him since that time. I can tell you that I'm often asked if the Shimschuck is an alias. Now, I do want to say that if it is an alias, and that is a pen name, and if I did know the real name, that I would be doing him a disservice by giving that name out in the event that he is okay and alive, which I do not know right now. If he were deceased, then I would probably have no problem disclosing a little bit of additional information that I know. But not knowing 100% what his situation is right now, there is some information that I am reluctant to disclose regarding Dr. Shimschuck.
Now, when we had spoken before, you did say that there was some stuff that you wanted to let us know about. Have you changed your mind about that, or is that something different?
I have some audio recordings. I don't have them with me on this PC at the moment. This is not. It does not disclose. It's not information so sensitive that I can't talk about it. But what I would prefer to do, though, Rex, if it's okay with you, is I will send you those clips.
Sure.
And let you listen to them yourself, and then you can report on them yourself what you think. They're not very long. They're just 4 or 5 or 6 minute long clips from my conversation with him over Skype before I started writing about him. And I prefer just to go ahead and send those to you from my other computer, and you can take a look and listen to those.
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem. Now, being that you're a reporter and you've probably been doing this type of work, maybe not just with Planet X, but with other things now for quite some time. Do you have connections like all over the world?
Before I got involved in alternative media, I did work for mainstream papers. I will tell you that my last name is not my real last name, and I do that for my own protection. Is because I really do not want my last name disclosed out there. But I worked for a few city papers. I worked for a national paper. I had my face run along my byline, which is why I'm reluctant to do video interviews. Not that I won't do them, I'm just a little bit reluctant to at this time. I do have some sources in other countries, Russia being primary among them, and a network of sources across this country too.
And if you were to say there was one image that, out of all of them, that would convince you of Planet X, do you have that on your site? And if you do, could you direct us towards it?
Rex, as of this moment right now, we already looked at the one that most convinces me, which is the first one we looked at, which was the latest image that we received out of Brazil.
Okay.
That Primo Forensics verified, at least authenticated for us as not having been manipulated.
Okay. And then I'd like to look at this one right here, because I've often seen a lot of these images with like this black dot over the center of the sun, and sometimes it's not in the center, it's to the left or to the right a little bit, and I don't know what that is, but I've seen a whole bunch of them. Could you describe that? Is that just some type of artifact from the lens because it's so extreme, the light, or do you know?
Rex, to be honest, I couldn't tell you what that black dot is. I have no idea whatsoever.
What do you think it is? Because I've seen dozens of these pictures lately in different sky cams from around the world that have that black dot.
I mean, I'm with you, and I understand. I've literally looked at thousands of images taken from sky cams across the world as well, and they all have that black dot. I don't know if that is some kind of lens aberration, or I really do not know. But if you find out, I would certainly be interested in hearing what that is too.
Yeah, I've got a guest that's going to be on in a few days. His name's Eric, and he's a professional photographer. He says that he's been in the photography industry now for years, and he can describe a lot of these anomalies that people are seeing as Planet X. So that's going to be an interesting conversation with him. One thing I would like to also talk with you about is the article you put together, Putin warns Obama, tell the world about Nibiru or I will.
Right. This is an article that was initially reported to Pravda magazine, and as it goes, Putin is tired of the cover-up that has been going on about Nibiru for the last 30 years. And he's tired, and understandably, Russia is tired about being threatened with extinction of nuclear war over not talking about Nibiru. Now, but the reasonable person was asked, well, why wouldn't Putin just go ahead and disclose it anyway? Why wouldn't he talk about it? Nobody really knows the answer to that. But the line of thinking is that Putin believes, and I don't necessarily believe in this, that Obama's voice carries more weight and a greater distance than his own. And it will get the information out there faster. And therefore, he wants Obama to go ahead and get the information out. The other reason would be, of course, is that if it turns out to be all a bomb and there is no Planet X, then he has somebody else take the fall for him, never having had released the information himself. Best guesses.
Okay, well, and when we're looking at this article, it kind of seems to insinuate that this information is, where did they actually find this information out that Putin said, I'm going to tell people?
This was reported to Pravda.
What's that?
Pravda, which is a Russian publication.
Okay, it's a Russian publication.
Yes.
It's reported to them, and yeah, interesting. Because I'm seeing here it's saying a verified excerpt of the private conversation, and it's like, okay, so could this be some just psyop, or they made it up, or is there some audio that somebody actually had access to so they could verify it?
that paragraph right there, I do not believe that this information is a psyop. I at least believe this to be authentic because this information can be pulled from Pravda, and I will get the link. I can actually obtain the link for that. I think this was only in the Russian page, not on the English translated page, but I can get that page. I can find that link for you, send you that link, and I'm sure Google will translate it all, and you can see that information. But I don't believe this was a psyop. I mean, who really knows what's a psyop and what's not a psyop? I can tell you that I believe that information to be legitimate.
Okay. And who's Madame Rosemary or Madame? Who's Madame Rosemary?
Madame Rosemary is a lady who lives in the Catskill Mountains and is extremely fascinated by the concept of Nibiru, and she is a little bit out there, a little bit eccentric, and she believes that her animals are able to communicate information about Nibiru to her. Now, I want to take a moment to say this, is that a lot of people will look at my stories on here and they will say, this is comical, this is farcical, this is just too funny or too crazy to be real. The Planet X topic generates a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. So one of the things I set out to do when I started to pick up and write about Planet X as a primary focus of this website is that I want to be able to temper all that craziness out there with a little bit of gallows humor. So this is one reason why in the About Us section of the page, I openly state that we sometimes do inject a little bit of levity, humor, and creativity into the stories. That's not to say that the stories are satirical or false, but I do believe it's necessary to try and bring down the rhetoric a little bit, rather than have people go jumping off cliffs because they're worried that Nibiru is going to come and their life is going to end. And back to Madame Rosemary, she lives in the Catskills. She's an old lady that I spoke to. I found her to be eccentric. I found her to be funny. I found her story to be hilarious. I found it to be worth writing about.
There's a movie that came out recently, I think with Ryan Reynolds in it, where he talked to his cat and he was a serial killer. It was it was a dark comedy. I couldn't even watch it, but my friend was like, "Man, you gotta watch this." And wow, that's interesting. I was just saying that as a joke as well. Now, obviously you have to spin things up once in a while, man, because if you take things too serious, Michael, especially on Planet X, it'll definitely eat you up. I think I've been doomed out now for about 8 years. Back, let's say, go to 2008, I was getting ready for things as far as being prepared, mentally, physically, spiritually, and there was so much back then, even possibilities of the world ending. Then it was 2012. I remember all the way back in the year 2000, people thought that nuclear missiles were going to get shot off because the zeros and the ones didn't line up in the software. So I take things now with a grain of salt. I almost wonder if that is a bad idea to an extent because, they cry wolf so many times to get people, I guess you could say, callous to the subject to where they'll catch you off guard. And I'm not a religious person by any means, but when certain things out of the Bible have definitely stuck with me, like, no one will know the time or the hour except for God, whoever or whatever God is. So.
Well, I as far as the hour and the time, I do believe that the wonderful people at NASA, and I say that with the greatest amount of sarcasm, do know the hour, at least a general time of when we can expect Planet X to make its grand entrance upon us. And as far as the cry wolf, there's a lot of cry wolf out there. There's been a lot of cry wolf out there since around Y2K when Nibiru started to get really popular. And it's like every 4 years, the Nibiru craze recycles. 2000, 2004, 2008. Then
Election
big,
time.
Big time in 2000. Ironically, yes. And then in 2012, and now again 2016, is a very big hot topic. But some people do take it so seriously, it affects their lives more than it should. Case in point, I have a very good friend that I've known for 10 years, and he became absolutely convinced that Nibiru's coming. He had to get the heck out of the Northeast, and he listened a lot to John Moore. I'm sure you know who John Moore is.
Oh yeah, he's been on the show. Yeah.
Okay. So he listened to John Moore. Get to the Ozarks. So he sold everything he had, packed up to the Ozarks, and left. And he wasn't in the best of health, but he died en route. So he died moving, and he probably would still be alive right now if he stayed where he was. So jumping ship and moving just because we all believe Nibiru is going to come, I don't necessarily believe that's the right course of action. And the tempo just should be taken down a little bit, and not, just to reduce the amount of panic going on in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really, things are going to happen. Whatever happens, happens. You really can't do much if a planet is going to run into another planet, except for be right with the people you care about. So, but I don't think that's really going to happen. Even if there is a Planet X, I do feel that life will continue. Will it shake some feathers? Will there be some catastrophes? Yeah, I mean, there certainly could be if it's legit and if it's going to get as close as people say it will, that have translated texts that are thousands of years old from the Sumerian tablets, etc. So there's a lot of possibilities. Now, also, let's go back into some of these other articles that you have with the Planet X anomalies here. I'm looking at your news that you've got set up here. You've got so many nice articles put together. I like the way that you write these because they're easy to read, and you've got links and pictures and images that go with it. Now, would you say that this is really the past year or so taken off more than previously?
Oh, definitely, absolutely. I mean, this website is only 3 months old.
Oh wow! Okay.
3 months old, and it has exploded, over 3 months. And naturally, Nibiru is popular, and there's the Paul Cox article you're bringing up. And we certainly were not the only one to cover Paul Cox when he talked about this information during a broadcast.
Was that legit?
Absolutely legit. He kind of shook it off a little bit in jest afterwards, but he did talk about it, and he talked about how we don't have to cover things up like NASA here. So you could say he was joking, but in every joke there's some truth. So I like to think, and I believe that he was being earnest when he said that.
Because that image, if you're watching that video footage, that secondary sun or that object that he says is the second sun, it looks like it's the size of the regular sun.
That's the way it looks in the image. The quality of the image, as far as I saw it, wasn't fantastic, but at least in the image, it did appear that way. And of course, we know that Nibiru is I shouldn't say Nibiru. It depends on how you interpret Nibiru. I tend to think it's probably a solar system, with Nibiru being one of the outermost orbitals, and Wormwood itself being the star.
Now, what else do you talk about as far as what are your interests with? Because, like you said, this Planet X thing was something you started after.
Initially, my goal was to try and bring to light and poke fun at, to some extent, just the madness of the geopolitical instability going on in the world today. Everything from United States peacekeeping, I use quotations around that word, peacekeeping efforts in the Baltic states, to Russian aggression, just a host of political events that I find interesting, that I think are worth writing about. And that was the original idea for this website. Planet X was a side thought for it, and I had planned initially to mix in some Planet X in with everything else, but as Planet X started to gain popularity, then I decided that that should be the primary focus of this website, and there's HARP too. That's another topic that I think is very important. Is that HARP is definitely real. It's not an imaginary technology. It exists. It has been weaponized. It is being used by the governments to influence weather. There's no doubt about that, in my opinion.
Yeah, HARP's quite fascinating, and I wonder all of the things that they can do with those frequencies that they're able to blast out at such powerful rates. Now, the HARP phenomena is something that's been talked about for years, and it seems like they tried to come up with that campaign where, oh, they just left it, they just abandoned it, they don't need it anymore. It's no big deal. I don't know if you remember that about a year or so ago, they came up with those articles saying, oh, HARP is going to be discontinued.
There's no chance in the world that I believe that.
Yeah.
I have every confidence that they are still operating HARP, that it is operated at least by the three big powers, by us, Russia, and China, and that all three governments are certainly investigating and trying to weaponize that technology to the best of their individual abilities.
You think we're getting ready for war?
I think that the fact that we have not hit World War III yet is absolutely amazing. And based on the world situation today, what's going on in the Baltics, what's going on in Ukraine, the whole world is a powder keg right now. And some miraculous force must be working against war. Otherwise, there's no reason why we should not be in the midst of World War III right now.
Certainly, there's been many times before that the doomsday clock was really close to midnight. What do you think is going to happen with the elections?
My personal opinion on the election is that I think, personally, I am a Trump guy, and I hope that he gets in there. I absolutely believe at the last minute they're going to try and throw a big curveball and get him out of there. They're going to try and dig up dirt. Hillary's going to try and dig up as much dirt as possible. The Republicans are going to try and shoehorn somebody in there at the last minute. But my personal opinion is the outcome is that Trump will be the next president of the United States.
Okay. And what other websites do you have, Michael? Hey, look at that. Holy cow. Was that a SIG?
I don't know what kind of weapon was in that young lady's hands in the picture.
She wasn't messing around, man. Don't try and take her candy.
So this is the website that I started after Bones, and it's taken off well too. The one story on it has gone incredibly viral. It's had like 200,000 page views in the last couple of days. That's a story in there about Obama reporting to the Washington Post that Americans would be better under martial law. And of course, this is not a particularly new subject that Obama would say this. This has been reported for at least since his presidency began. But it is important because because he has many times asserted that he leans in that direction.
Do you think that they're gonna be able to push enough bills and regulations into play to take away people's Second Amendment rights? And if the answer is yes, the next question would be when?
I believe that it is their primary agenda right now to deprive Americans of their Second Amendment. As to whether or not they will be capable of doing it with what time Obama has left in office? No way at all. If Hillary were to ascend to the White House, she would definitely attempt to further that agenda, and she has made no bones about that. That's reported everywhere that she does not want Americans to have guns. If Trump gets into office, he is pro-gun ownership, so I believe that this whole issue will probably be nipped in the bud if that happens, if Hillary were to somehow to get into office, then it is entirely possible that sometime within the next 4 years that stricter gun legislation would be imposed upon American citizens.
What's this about a drone kill list for a 10-year-old?
Well, Obama has long maintained a kill list. This is a list of people that are what are considered to be targets of opportunity for drone strikes. Now, normally these are known terrorists, radical Islamic terrorists in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria. However, what happened is that a 10-year-old American girl's name surfaced on this list, mysteriously surfaced on this list, with no explanation as to why. And her parents demanded answers as to why. The father, and nobody knows if this is true or not, thinks that maybe because he is an outspoken proponent of the Second Amendment, that somehow he got put on some kind of government watch list that caused his daughter to get put onto this drone kill list. Whether or not that's true, I do not know. But bottom line is there is a list that Obama has, and somehow innocent civilians' names got on that list.
Wow, and how convenient, like you said, that the girl's father was is outspoken about your Second Amendment rights. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Michael, I mean, this is great, man. You've got some amazing websites, and I really hope you keep us updated with what's going on with any current events that you have, whether it be with politics or Planet X, because you got some great stuff, beautiful websites. We've had a lot of requests to get you on our show. Folks, I'd recommend you go to beholdapale.com. Also, check out someonesbones.com. I mean, all sorts of stuff on Nibiru, Planet X, the binary star system. Also, another thing I'd like to recommend, folks, is if you go to leakproject.com, you'll have access to exclusive content, and we have a contributing members section that, as a contributing member, you'll also get access to certain content that is only available for you guys. So, thank you for everything. Be safe. Be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Good night.